Right, okay. Thought I'd do a video about Blade. Um, Connor hasn't really watched all of these, I don't think, all the way through. So, yeah, so I thought I'd do this one on my own. So, so right off the bat, if you don't know anything about Blade, Blade is a Marvel movie, or Marvel movies. It was originally based off a comic. There are slight differences. Like, for example, he's a daywalker. I don't think he was in the comics initially. I think it was later changed after the movies. But yeah, so, and obviously his look was very different as well because they wanted to make it more modern day at the time. So when you see him in the comics, he looked very different. So I imagine after the films or after the first movie, they changed his look like they do because Marvel does that a lot. They've done it with the MCU movies. So yeah, like I say, a lot of people don't know that this was actually one of the first Marvel movies. Um, a lot of people credit Iron Man as being the first one to get the MCU going, which it was, but Blade was before that. I love Blade. Um, Not so crazy about Blade Trinity, um, which, if I'm honest, is probably why they didn't do any other Blade movies afterwards. Um, but yeah, the first two were great. Um, so one of the things I liked about it was nice to see for once a black hero, if you like. You know, majority of them predominantly are white people, so it was nice for once to see a black hero. So you know, it was a nice change. And who better to play Blade than Wesley Snipes? I mean, the thing is that when you see Blade, Wesley Snipes is Blade. I couldn't imagine anybody else playing him. You know, he's perfect for the role. You know, he's a martial artist, and he's also one of these guys. When you do watch films, a lot of his better films are where he doesn't say much. So, and of course with Blade, he's not a massive talker in that. So a lot of it is his actions speaking for him. So you know, he was perfect in that role. And like I say, I couldn't imagine anybody else playing him. So um, cast is great as well. You know, in all of the films, if I'm honest, you know, there's great actors in there. Um, I'm actually struggling to think of their names actually right now, but you know, there's some real big names. Blade Two, one of the few times I'd say where a sequel was equal or better than the first film. I'd actually argue it's better than the first one. I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved the first film, but I do think the sequel was really good. And it was, you know, a perfect continuation of the story. You know, in the first film, he's trying to stop the vampires in his, if you like, his local neighbourhood. Whereas in the second one, obviously, he's now in a different country. So you know, it widens the universe or the world, if you like, because initially we're seeing it in the city that he's living in at the time, if you like. Um, Whereas now he's beat them, he's now moving out further afield. You know, he's going after them all around the world, sort of thing. So it was a perfect continuation. And on that continuation, obviously, one of the main plot threads in Blade 2 is that the Vampire Nation are trying to replicate his powers, you know, the Daywalker. They're trying to make it so that all vampires can go out in the daytime. You know, he's there, if you like, Blade's their end goal. Obviously, there's complications which cause what the storyline is to Blade 2. I won't go into too much detail just in case you haven't seen it. But, you know, obviously it causes the problems that are in Blade 2, and that's why Blade's there to help. So, um, yeah, I thought it was a good continuation. And obviously, wherever vampires are involved, there's always a bit of backstabbing and twisting of what's going on. You know, you can never quite trust them. So, but then it comes to Blade Trinity, and I mean, this is where I think things fell apart a bit because with Blade Trinity, it's kind of took a step backwards. You know, Blade One was in a city in America, then it moves to the second one where it's somewhere else like I think it's Russia if I remember right. And then here we are in the third one back in the US again, and I think that's where it sort of that's the first sign that things were wrong with it. Um, one of the things I loved about it was that you had the wrestler Triple H in it, which I thought was pretty good. One of the reasons why I started weightlifting, other than obviously Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of the reasons was Triple H. Although he's a wrestler, he very much loves the world of bodybuilding. So, and that's a lot of what got me into it, start lifting weights and bulking up. So it was good to see him in there. And he didn't do too bad. A lot of wrestlers are not normally very good actors, but I don't think he did too bad considering. And one of the other good things to take from the third film was Ryan Reynolds. He's the comic relief of the film. And in a lot of ways, he saves the film at times. Yeah, he's funny. Some of the things he does, and also when you watch the way he carries on in this film, he was literally Deadpool in the making. If you just pictured when he's saying stuff in this film, if you just pictured him in a Deadpool costume, he is Deadpool. So when it come round to the Deadpool movie, straight away I said he's going to be perfect for this role because he'd already played roles like this before. The Joker. So with this film, I get why they did this. Dracula was the obvious next step, really. You've had him beat the guy that is trying to summon the blood god. Second film, he's beating the guys that have tried to create more daywalkers. And so, really, your next step up, if you want to heighten the peril, you've got to go with Dracula, really, haven't you? The king of all vampires. So it was the obvious next step, but I just don't think it was handled right. I mean, he's the main sort of thing going through this. Like, he's the main threat, but you don't really feel like he is. A lot of the time, the other characters are doing things around him, and he's kind of just there. And that's where I think a lot of the problems with this film come from. If you're going to have Dracula, you've got to have him at the forefront. You've got to have this guy being the main threat. So, yeah, I don't quite know where they were going or what they were thinking. I think they got a little bit confused on who the bad guy was in this movie, because he kind of plays second fiddle to a couple of the other characters, and I don't understand that. If you're bringing Dracula in, Dracula should be the one in charge. He should be your main threat. He should be the one calling the shots, but it never really feels like he is. So, yeah, I didn't really quite understand that. One of the other issues with it for me, how many times are you going to kill Whistler off? The character Whistler, they killed him off in the first one, and then you find out in the sequel he's not dead. They turned him, he'd become a vampire, and then they bring him back to the good guys. They cure him. And then what do they do with him in the third film? Kill him. Why? What's the point? Why bring him back if you're going to kill him again? So, yeah, I wasn't happy with that. When I watched the third film, I mean, because it happens relatively quickly in the film, I was like, what are they doing? What was the point? So, yeah, bad decision. I think you should have kept Whistler in it. If you've gone to all the trouble of bringing him back in the sequel, you should have kept him in the third film. Otherwise, it just makes it a bit meaningless, So, and it really was a poor movie. I think a lot of the reason why it is a poor movie, other than the fact that they didn't seem to know where they were going with it, I think is that you've got a lot of supporting characters, and I think that takes something away from Blade. Um, you know, in a lot of the fight scenes, there isn't just him fighting. There's a couple of other people as well, and I think it kind of takes something away from Blade. It kind of makes him look a little less than he did in the other two films. He's not this like kick-ass vampire that goes in and just tears people to shreds in this film. It pretty much puts right in at the beginning that he needs help. Yeah, I think that kind of destroys what you've done in previous two films. So yeah, I wasn't a massive fan of that. So it's all right, you know. It's not bad, but it's nowhere near the caliber of the first two. So, um, which of course then led to the Blade TV series, and which I mean, I'll be honest, I only ever watched one episode. I struggled with it, never went back to it. I wasn't a fan, so I couldn't really tell you if it was a reboot or not. I got the impression it was, but you know, I couldn't really tell you. Um, the guy playing Blade in it was a guy, like, basically he was from the hip hop group Onyx. His name in that was Sticky Fingers. They got him to play him, and I've got so many issues with that. I can't even tell you. You know, like I said to you, Wesley Snipes is Blade, and this guy was not. I couldn't handle it. I watched the first episode and I was like, "What is this rubbish?" You know, it was just like they just slapped Blade on it just so they could get people to watch it. You know, so just didn't work for me. I checked out after that first episode. Couldn't do anymore. It was almost as bad as watching Ben Affleck's Daredevil. You know, that level of bad. You know, so um, and I'm guessing everybody else pretty much felt the same in a lot of ways because it got cancelled. I don't know exactly how long it went on for, but I'll be honest, I don't remember it going on any longer than one, maybe two seasons. So, yeah, so clearly by the fact that it got cancelled, it obviously wasn't that good. People didn't want to watch it, or they did watch it and then realised it was rubbish and didn't watch it again. So, I don't know, one of the two. But, of course, recently there's been rumours, and this is one of the reasons why I decided to cover Blade, because I thought, well, you know, these recent rumours, it's bringing it all back to light again. So there are rumours that the MCU might be actually picking up the Blade character. Because this is the thing, like I said to you before, he was a Marvel character, and it was a Marvel movie, but it wasn't an MCU movie. So at the moment, it's not actually in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, um, yeah, the only thing with this is the MCU does do it. I'm a little bit worried because obviously they're going to probably tone it down a bit. I mean, the original Blade movies were quite violent. So, well, say quite. I mean, you know, you got people's heads coming off and all sorts. So, um, I do think with the effects we've got now, they could do things and it would look better. Like one of the criticisms, if you look at Blade now, obviously it looks a little dated in places. Is, for example, when the vampires turn to ash, sort of thing. You know, it looks a bit dated now when you look at it. So that is something that they could improve on. My only worry is like I've said twice already on this video, is, you know, Wesley Snipes to me is Blade. Same as to a lot of people, Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. You know, and I'd agree with that as well. You know, when you see Hugh Jackman, he's Wolverine. So I'm worried that whoever they get to play Blade is not going to be, you know, Blade, if that makes sense. So, although saying that, you know, it's very rare that Marvel do let us down with these movies. They do normally do a pretty good job with their people they pick to play roles. There are exceptions, but in a majority of cases, like, you know, for example, a lot of people didn't think that they could do a better Spider-Man, and they did. So, um, yeah. So it's interesting times. It would be nice to see Blade in the MCU, but I've got to be honest, I'm not quite sure how they're going to work that in there. So, but who knows? Only time will tell. And I mean, this could be a rumor; it might not even be true. Or should I say, it is a rumor, so it might not even be true. So only time will tell. But yeah, so I just thought I'd cover Blade anyway, just in case people have forgot about the character, you know. And obviously, with this latest rumor, it's kind of brought it back to the forefront again. So yeah, so if you haven't watched them for a while, give them a watch. Classic movies. Right, Nerdy Geezer out.